Welcome to my channel. He only asked me to stay a little longer, just to talk, just to keep him company. But the moment my son Jack looked at me with those eyes full of something deeper, something unspoken, I knew this night would be different. What happened next changed the way I saw myself in him. Where are you watching us from tonight? Drop your city in the comments. Let's see where this story travels. Now, let me tell you what really happened that evening. It had been one of those strangely quiet evenings, in where you feel time standing still. No ticking clock, no phone buzzing, no dog barking next door. Just the soft hum of the heater and the rain lightly brushing the windows like a forgotten lullaby. I was in the living room sipping a lukewarm cup of tea and half watching some old movie I'd seen 100 times before. The kind you don't really need to pay attention to because you already know how it ends. I think that's how I felt about most things lately. Predictable, known, faded at the edges. Then Jack called out. His voice didn't echo down the hallway the way it usually did. It was softer, almost unsure. Mom. I turned my head slowly, not answering great. Away. Yeah, can you come stay in my room for a bit? That caught me off guard. He hadn't asked me for anything like that in years. He was 30 now, lived back home temporarily since the divorce, and Evan thought we were close. There was a wall of unspoken things between us ever since he moved back. Adult children are funny like that. They love you, but they build boundaries they think they need. Still, something in his tone made me pause. I placed my tea down and made my way down the dim hallway, passing the photos of Fim as a boy, the ones I still hadn't taken down, the one with the missing front teeth and that oversized red sweater he loved. I knocked lightly as a formality. The door creaked open. Jack sat on the edge of his bed, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like he'd lost something. He looked tired, not the kind of tired that sleep cures, but the heavy kind, the soul kind. I stepped inside. You were right. He glanced up at me, and for the briefest second I saw it. Something raw. Something in his eyes that looked like had been holding a breath for too long. Just stay with me for a bit, he said. I don't want to be alone right now. I nodded and moved to sit beside him. Deep dipped under our weight. The rain kept tapping on the windows, steady and rhythmic. We sat in silence for a moment, close but not touching. The way people sit when they're afraid of saying too much or maybe afraid of saying the wrong thing. I had a dream last night, he finale-said. What kind of dream? He paused. You were in it. I gave a small smile. Well, that's nothing new. I'm always haunting you, aren't I? But he didn't smile. It felt real, like we were talking about things we never talk about, things he always wanted to say. I looked at him and really looked. His jaw was tight, his hands fidgeted, and I realized something. This wasn't about a dream, that this was about 1,000 moments headed away, 1,000 words he never said. Jack, I said gently, whatever it is, you can talk to me. He took a deep breath like he was bracing himself. Do you ever feel like you missed out on something? Like life took a different turn and you never found your way back to the road you were supposed to be on? That question hit me in the chest. Not because it was shocking, but because it was mine too. My own unspoken truth reflected in his voice. All the time, I whispered. He finally looked at me. I think that's what's been eating at me. I feel like I don't know who I am anymore or what I'm supposed to be. And sometimes being near you is the unliving. That feels real. The room felt heavier, but not in a bad way. More like something important was happening. Something neither of us had planned for. I reached over, resting my hand on his he didn't pull away. Instead, he turned his palm to meet mine, our fingers loosely curling together. A quiet understanding passed between us. It's okay to feel lost, I said. You don't need all the answers right now. Halleck dotted her hands. I just didn't expect to feel this close to you again. Not like when I was a kid. It is different now, and I don't know what to do with it. His words danced on the edge of something deeper. Something I wasn't sure he was ready to name, or maybe I wasn't, but I didn't pull away. I didn't let the moment break. Instead, I stayed. I let silence do the talking. I let the rain fill in the gaps. Sometimes love changes shape. Some metamusculousness redefines as itself, and that night, as we sat in the quiet, his fingers in mine and his head slowly leaning to rest against my shoulder, I realized maybe this was the beginning of a new kind of closeness, one we didn't understand yet, but one web if needed, and I wasn't prepared for what that meant. Not yet, but I stayed. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the half-open curtains in narrow golden lines. It stretched across the floor, reaching toward the bed like gentle fingers, nudging us awake. But I was already awake. I hadn't slept much. Jack was still beside me, fully dressed, lying on top of the covers, his arm having fallen loosely over his stomach. Sleep. He looked peaceful now, a softness on his face that hadn't been there in months, maybe even years. I watched him for a few moments, remembering the boy he used to be, Theon who used to crawl into my bed after nightmares, the one who used to fall asleep clutching my hand like it was the only anchor in his small stormy world. And now here we were, adults changed by time, and yet something about last night had stirred the past into the present in a way that felt too big to ignore. I rose carefully, not wanting to whack him. My joints protested a little as I stood, a quiet reminder that I was no longer 30. I wandered into the kitchen, put on a fresh pot of coffee, and leaned against the counter, arms folded. The scent of roasted beans began to fill the space, warm and grounding. I tried to collect my thoughts, but they kept slipping like sand through my fingers. What had last night meant? Was it just comfort? A moment of shared vulnerability between mother and son? Or was there something deeper threading through it? Something we hadn't dared to know? The kettle clicked off. I poured 2 cups and stood there for a long moment, staring at the steam curling upward. Then I heard his steps behind me. Slow, hesitant. Morning, Jack said softly, his voice still thick with sleep. Morning, I replied, offering him the skin mug. I figured you'd need this, he took it, our fingers brushing just for a second. And there it was again, that flicker of tension, not uncomfortable, but noticeable, like we were standing on a line neither of us could quite see. We sat at the small table by the window, the one with 2 old chairs and a view off the neighbor's overgrown rosebush. Jack took a sip. Did I make you uncomfortable last night? I looked up from my cup. No. Did I seem like I was? He shook his head. No, it's just I've been thinking about it. About everything I said. Me too, I admit it. He looked away for a beat, then met my eyes again. It wasn't just the divorce that messed him up. I think I've been carrying things for a long time. Loneliness, confusion, I just never let it show. You did last night, yeah. He chuckled under his breath. A humorous sound that it felt like I don't know. Like the only time I could say what I was really feeling. You can always say what you're feeling. Jack, you're not a boy anymore. I want you to be open with me. He looked at Marie, and his gaze lingered a little too long. Not inappropriate, not alarming, but intense and different. It's more than just feeling lost, Hesed. It's how safe I feel around you. How different. It feels to be this close to someone without pretending that my heart ached. I wanted to comfort him, but something told me to let him speak, to let it unfold naturally. He continued. When I was lying next to last night, it didn't feel like I was just with my mom. It felt like I was with someone who saw me. All of me, and didn't judge me for it. That quiet truth settled between us like fresh snow. I do see you, I said gently. and not just as my son. His eyes searched mine. Then what do you see? The question left me briefless. It was too heavy, too fragile, too layered to answer quickly. I looked down at my hands. I see a man who's been through a lot. A man trying to find his way. A man who deserves love and softness and safety, maybe more than's ever had. When I looked back up, his expression had softened. You make me feel like I'm not broken. Because you're not, I whispered. There was silence again. The kind that holds its breath. The kind that makes you aware of every heartbeat. Would it be okay if we talked again tonight? Yes, maybe. Stayed up a little later. I don't want last night to be the last time. My voice barely rose above a whisper. Yes, I'd like that. We didn't touch. Wouldn't cross a line, but we hovered close to it with a kind of understanding that didn't need to be explained. That night changed something in us. It cracked open a space where we could be more honest, maybe even more vulnerable than ever before. And somehow I knew it wasn't over. Not yet, not even close. The day moved slowly like thick honey pouring from a jar. I went about my routine, folding laundry, sorting through old mail, watering the plants by the window. But my thoughts kept circling back to Jack. Back to the way he'd looked at me over coffee, to the weight of his words, and that unmistakable feeling that something between us had shifted. I tried to tell myself it was just maternal closeness, a deeper bond after years of distance. That's what any good mother would feel, right? But a part, often the part that had grown quiet over the years, the part that used to want more than just being needed, that part stirred. I hadn't felt that alive in a long time, and it scared me. That evening, after dinner, the house was once again filled with silence, broken only by the clinking of dishes in the sink and the occasional hum from the fridge. Jack had offered to clean up, but I waved him off. I needed a moment to myself just to breathe. As I wiped down the counter, I noticed him pass by in the hallway, slowing slightly at the archway like he wanted to say something. I looked up. You heading to bed? I asked. He hesitated. I was going to sit in my room for a bit, unless I waited. Unless you wanted to come with me like last night. My chest tightened, not out of fear, but something heavier. Anticipation, curiosity, a delicate warmth I couldn't quite name. I nodded. Let me finish up here. 10 minutes later, I stepped into his room again. The space felt different than the night before, not because anything had changed physically, but because we both had. There was an electricity in the air like the air before a storm, quiet and expectant. He was sitting on the floor this time, leaning against the bed with a pillow behind his back. The bedside lamp was on, casting a soft amber glow that made the room feel almost dreamlike. I didn't want to lay down yet, he sighed as I walked in. Didn't want to fall asleep too soon. I smiled. We can just talk. He nodded and patted the space beside him. I sat cross-legged, knees brushing. It felt like sitting at a secret campfire. Even though there was no fire, no flame, just the warmth that passed between us. I've been thinking about what you said this morning, he began. About not being just my mom. I glanced at Hyman. He ran his fingers through his hair. It felt good, but it also confused me. I keep asking myself why being with you like this feels so right. So comforting. I thought I was just lonely, but it's not that simple. I don't think it is either, I replied, my voice steady, though my heart wasn't. He turned to face me more directly. There's something about your presence that makes me feel calm. And when I talk to you, it's like the weight lifts. I can breathe again. I didn't answer right away. I wasn't sure I could, Jack continued. Most people would say this kind of closeness between us is unusual, but I don't care what people would say. I care about how I feel when I'm with you. He paused, waiting, watching my face, and I realized he needed permission, not to act, not to change anything, but just to feel what he felt, to know it wasn't wrong to crave connection, even if it came in a form that surprised us both. I reached out and rested my hand on his arm. You don't have to explain anything, Toe. Me, Jack, I felt it too. I just didn't know how to say it. His eyes soft dot, so it's not just in my head. No, I said barely above a whisper. It's real, and it's honest dot, and maybe that's all it needs to be right now. He exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding that breath all day. Then, quietly, he moved a little closer. Not too much. Just enough that our shoulders touched. His warmth seeped into me, and I didn't move away. We sat like that for a while, the lamplight flickering slightly, the house silent around us. And then he said something that stopped my heart. Can I put my head in your lap? Just for a while. I swallowed hard, 1,000 thoughts racing behind my eyes. But my answer came calmly, Dot. Yes, you can. He shifted gently, laying down with his head resting on my thighs, his body curled slightly on the floor beside me. I placed my hand on his hair, fingers slightly threading through it like Ayuesedo when he was small, but it wasn't the same. This time it was husky and grown and fragile. He closed his eyes, my hand moved slowly. An instant moment, nothing else in the world existed. Just this quiet moment, just two of us. No labels, no roles, just what people trying to heal. Dot. Thank you, he whispered. For what? For letting me be close to you. For not pulling away. Dot. My throat tightened. I'm not going anywhere, I said softly. Not tonight, and I meant it. Because whatever this was, whatever we're discovering, it wasn't about confusion or wrongness. It was about something deeply human, something rare, and I knew in that quiet room with Jack breathing steadily against me that this wasn't the end of anything. Dot. It was the beginning. I don't know how long we stayed like that. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. Time felt irrelevant as Jack lay there with his head gently cradled in my lap, my fingers still sliding through his hair in a rhythm that felt instinctual, protective, intimate. A part of me tried to search for the right words to name what was happening between us, but nothing seemed to fit. It wasn't just mother and son anymore, not in the way the world defined it. It was two souls bruised by time and circumstance, finally exhaling in each other's presence. When Jack eventually opened his eyes, he looked up at me like hadn't just rested, but like he had woken up. He blinked a few times, then smiled faintly. I didn't mean to fall asleep. I murmured. I smiled back, brushing a stray strand of hair from his forehead. You needed it. You've been carrying too much? He turned slightly on his side, facet tilted up, eyes still locked on mine. I never thought I'd feel this close to Tonyon again. After everything, I just asked him what kind of connection was. Got it for me. You don't have to assume me anymore, I said quietly. His expression changed, not dramatically, but subtly. The muscles around his eyes relaxed. His lips parted slightly, as if he was about to say something, but wasn't sure how. What are we doing, Mom? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath. The air between us felt warmer now, heavier with meaning. We're healing, I said. We're finding comfort. We're holding on to something real. He reached up slowly, hesitating, then gently placed his hand on my arm. That's more than that for me. I know, I said, the truth catching in my throat. Wouldn't move. We didn't try to define it further. Instead, we let the silence speak. A silence so full it felt like its own language. Eventually, he sat up, his hand still resting on my arm. The closeness remained, but something had changed. Akon clarity had settled between us. I don't want to lose this, he said. Whatever it is. You won't, I replied. We don't need to rush to understand it. We just need to honor it. He nodded slowly, his gaze lowering to our hands now intertwined on his knee. His thumb brushed gently across mine. Do you ever feel like maybe love just looks different than we were told it would? He asked. My breath caught. I didn't need to think. Long before answering Dot all the time, we sat there, the lamp still glowing softly in the corner, casting long shadows across the room. The house felt still like it too was listening, bearing witness to a moment that had no script, no rules, just honesty. I always thought I needed to go fin myself out there, Jack said, gesturing vaguely toward the window. But maybe you've been searching for something that was already right here. I leaned in and kissed the top of his shed, slow, deliberate. You don't need to search anymore. He wrapped his arms around me, fidgetly resting his head against Miss Holder like he used to when he was small. But it felt different now. It was the embrace of equals, of two people carrying different kinds of pain, learning to share the weight. We stayed like that a long while. There was no urgency, no need to break the moment. Eventually, we got up and moved to Thibed. Lying side by side this time, we didn't touch, not yet. But the space between us was charged with understanding, a closeness that felt both ancient and new. Dot, do you think people would understand this? He asked. I turned to look at him in the dim light. Maybe not. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. He nodded, eyes drifting shut, his breathing slowing. And as I lay beside him, watching the steady rise and fall of his chest, I felt something inside me shift, a quiet acceptance, a strange kind of peace. I wasn't prepared for what happened the night he asked me to stay in his room. But so many times the most unexpected moments are the ones that lead us back to ourselves, back to connection, back to feeling. I don't know what comes next. Maybe we don't need to know. Maybe all we need is this closeness, this fragile, beautiful truth that we found when the world around us was finally quiet. And for now, that's